a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is Monday, February 27, 2018, and your radio hosts today are
Beverlyn Simonette
and Robert Dean. We'll be reading the news from the Monday Fayettville Observer. Your weather. Today will be cloudy with rain. It will begin to get cooler. The high will be 64, and tonight the low will be 41, and it will turn out clear and cooler. Tomorrow will be mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 66 and a low of 40. Wednesday will be cloudy with a shower in the afternoon. The high will be 65, the low 55. Thursday will be cloudy and warm with showers around. The high will be 72, the low 46. Friday will be sunny and breezy. The high will be 65 and the low will be 40. Saturday there will be plenty of sunshine. The high will be 62 and the low 38. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 68 and a low of 34. Sunrise today was at 6:49 a.m. The sunset tonight will be at 6:08 p.m. Moonrise today will be at 3:44 p.m. The moonset will be at 5:02 a.m. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:48 a.m. Sunset tomorrow will be at 6:09 p.m. The full moon is March 1st, last moon March 9th, new moon March 17th, and first moon March 24th.
Today in history. Today is Monday, February 26th, the 57th day of 2018. There are 308 days left in the year. Today's highlights: on February 26, 1993, a truck bomb built by Islamic extremists exploded in the parking garage of the North Tower of New York's World Trade Center, killing 6 people and injuring more than 1,000 others. In 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte escaped from exile on the island of Elba and headed back to France in a bid to regain power. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson signed a congressional act establishing Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona. In 1945, authorities ordered a midnight curfew at nightclubs, bars, and other places of entertainment across the nation. In 1952, Prime Minister Winston Churchill announced that Britain had developed its own atomic bomb. In 1970, National Public Radio was incorporated. In 1987, the Tower Commission, which probed the Iran-Contra affair, issued a report rebuking President Ronald Reagan for failing to control his national security staff. Birthdays. Country rock musician Paul Cotton of Poco is 75. Singer Mitch Ryder is 73. Singer Michael Bolton is 65 today. Actress Jennifer Grant is 52. Singer Erykah Badu is 47. R&B singer Rico Wade of Society of Soul is 46. Olympic gold medal swimmer Jenny Thompson is 45 today. Actor Greg Ricart is 41. R&B singer Kareem Bailey Ray is 39. Country singer Rodney Hayden is 38 today, and pop singer Nate Ruess of Fun is 36. Tennis player Lionel is 36, and Latin singer Natalia Lafourcade is 34 today. And we have a birthday for one of our listeners today. Wallace Hardwick has a birthday today. Happy birthday, Wallace. Have a fantastic day.
Daybreak, need to know. Go Red for Women Heart event. Southeastern Health will have a Go Red for Women Heart event at Biggs Park Mall in Lumberton on Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The event will feature a display of red dresses and a presentation on women and heart disease in the center court at noon. Complimentary heart-healthy heavy hors d'oeuvres will be provided, as well as free giveaways and health screenings for blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. The event will include booths with information about women's health, cancer prevention, breast health, fitness, heart health, wound care, and more. Art Night Out. The public is invited to meet the curators and tour the exhibit Return from Exile at the Museum of the Southeast American Indian at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. The Art Night Out will be 4 to 7 p.m. on March 9th. The free event will feature artist demonstrations, food vendors, and performances by Mark McKinney and Company. The museum is inside Old Main. For more information, call area code 910-521-6351. Clean Energy Summit. Desmond Wheatley, President, CEO, and Chairman of Envision Solar, will be the industry keynote speaker during the 2018 Sandhills Clean Energy Summit on March 9th. He will speak at noon in the General Classroom Building at Fayetteville Technical Community College. The event will feature expert panels, roundtables, and workshops on March 9th and March 10th. The summit is free and open to the public. Tickets are $30 to attend the two keynote luncheons. Those tickets are available at sustainablesandhills.org/donate. That's sustainablesandhills.org/donate. We want to hear from you. Please submit your events in writing at least 10 days in advance. Email calendar at fayobserver.com or fax the complete details to 486-3545. For questions, call 486-3500.
Winfrey, Florida students, warriors of light. Oprah Winfrey has nothing but praise for the Florida school shooting survivors who have channeled angst into activism, calling them warriors of light and comparing them to civil rights pioneers. In an interview with the Associated Press on Saturday, Winfrey drew parallels between the teens and the freedom riders of the 1960s who rode buses into southern states in protest of racial segregation. Winfrey called the Parkland students' protest for gun control a proud moment. It's an evolving moment for our country. The same thing happened, as you know, back in the 50s and 60s with the civil rights movement, Winfrey said. Young people said, "We will not tolerate what our ancestors have tolerated. We have had enough, and we're willing to fight for it and willing to march in the streets for it, and if necessary, die for it." Winfrey spoke while promoting the upcoming film A Wrinkle in Time, directed by Ava DuVernay and featuring her Reese Witherspoon and Mindy Kaling. The film is adapted from Madeline L. Ingles' science fiction fantasy novel. These young people get to be literally warriors of the light, Winfrey said. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to, through their voices, through the march for our lives, say, we will not let this happen again. We are going to do what we can to banish the darkness. The former talk show host last week matched a $500,000 donation by George and Emil Clooney to the students' planned marches, including one on March 24th in Washington, D.C. The February 14th mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School that left 17 people dead has sparked calls for walkouts, sit-ins, and other actions on school campuses across the U.S. Winfrey also reacted to President Donald Trump's recent tweeting about her, in which he called her very insecure. Nobody wants to be hate tweeted, especially by the president, said Winfrey. So it's not a comfortable thing, I think, for anybody on social media who's had somebody say something about you that you didn't feel was true. But I believe that you meet any kind of negativity in your life, that you meet it with light.
Inside politics, Mayor concerned about law firm choice. Fayetteville Mayor Mitch Colvin raised concerns with how City Attorney Karen McDonald has handled awarding a legal contract for taking civil action against those legally responsible for the wrongful distribution of prescription opiates. I was completely opposed to the process of unilaterally awarding a legal services law firm without going through the normal procurement process, Colvin wrote in an email to McDonald on February 15th. All of the City Council members, as well as City Manager Doug Hewitt, were included on the email. On February 12th, the City Council adopted a resolution supporting civil action against those legally responsible for the wrongful distribution of prescription opiates. McDonald said in a memo that opioid abuse is burdening city resources. She noted that Fayetteville police officers used naloxone, an opioid overdose antidote, 132 times on 118 people in 2017. At the dinner meeting before the vote, McDonald said that lawyers Terry Hutchins and Billy Richardson recently contacted the city about initiating litigation against the manufacturers and wholesale distributors of opioids in the Fayetteville area. The local attorneys have joined with a consortium of attorneys across the country to pursue civil remedies against those parties to potentially recover the cost associated with addressing opioid abuse, McDonald said in a memo addressed to City Council. In the email, Colvin affirmed his support for the lawsuit in general. The taxpayers have paid millions of dollars combating this problem in our community, Colvin wrote. Therefore, I was overly excited to hear about the class action litigation opportunity for the city to recoup some of those expenditures. But both in the email and at the meeting, Colvin raised concerns during the meeting about how McDonald had not reached out to other local and minority firms before awarding Hutchins and Richardson the contract. The method used was a no-bid contract for what is expected to be a multi-million-dollar litigation case. This is unacceptable, Colvin wrote. In 2015, the council adopted a policy to strive to be more inclusive to local and minority companies on every opportunity. He ended the email by saying he will place the item back on a future City Council's meeting agenda for reconsideration. McDonald noted in her response that the city was only approached by Richardson and Hutchins. McDonald added that Hutchins' law firm meets the requirements for a local firm. State law does not require the issuance of a request for a quotation or request for a proposal or bid for litigation services, according to McDonald. But she said the city has taken efforts to reach out to minority and local law firms. In 2015, consistent with council's interest, our office issued an RFQ a request for a quotation to identify local and minority firms interested in doing work for the city, McDonald said. She ended the email by saying that she has reached out to Hutchins regarding the council's interest in the inclusion of a minority firm. Appointments. Governor Roy Cooper has appointed Susan Mills of Fayetteville to the North Carolina Textbook Commission. She said on Facebook she was appointed on the recommendation of North Carolina Schools Superintendent Mark Johnson. The commission evaluates textbooks for use in North Carolina's public schools and makes recommendations on them to the State Board of Education. State House Speaker Tim Moore has appointed the following Fayetteville-Fort Bragg region lawmakers to the House Select Committee on School Safety: Representative Elmer Floyd of Fayetteville, Representative Marvin Lucas of Spring Lake, Representative Brendan Jones of Columbus County, Representative Larry Bell of Sampson County, Representative Jamie Voiles of Moore County, and Representative Garland Pierce of Scotland County. Representative David Lewis of Harnett County was appointed as a co-chairman. The committee is to seek expert input on securing the state schools in light of the mass shooting in Parkland, Florida, that killed 17 students and teachers at a high school. To submit items for Inside Politics, email them to insidepolitics@fayobserver.com. The deadline is Thursday.
Monday Moment. Volunteers make Soup Up effort. Sue Bird gathered a group of 50 volunteers to pray Friday morning in the dining area at Hay Street United Methodist Church. Bird, the founder and executive director of Fayetteville Area Operation, inasmuch blessed the nonprofit organization's annual Bread and Bowls fundraiser. She also blessed the volunteers who have helped the group, which provides food and assistance to the homeless. Prepared for the event, Operation Inasmuch at 531 Hillsborough Street has served the Fayetteville community since 2007. Our volunteers, they don't come here for the recognition, Bird said. Our volunteers are called here. That's what makes them really special. And with the final amen, the group of volunteers dispersed. Their hard work was on full display at 10:30 a.m., about an hour before lunch was served. Volunteers from different churches throughout the area began bringing large bowls and containers filled with chicken, corn, chowder, and chili. An assembly line formed in the kitchen, ensuring each container was placed in the oven. More than 100 volunteers assisted in putting on the fundraiser this year. Winnette Walk, head of the Bread and Bowls Committee, said she started rallying volunteers for the event in September. Walk and the others also walked to businesses throughout the area to ask for their sponsorship. In many cases, before she could even open her mouth, business owners had already offered to donate. The work speaks for itself, Walk said. More than 100 items, including jewelry and artwork, were donated by local businesses and residents for a silent auction that took place while people ate. Pam Woolen, the silent auction coordinator, worked to make sure each item was placed in just the right spot. Parallel to the silent auction table stood the pottery bowl table. Volunteers Vicki Champion and Sheriani Tisdale arranged all of the bowls, some of which were made by professional potters and others by Operation Inasmuch family members. We don't call the homeless, Tisdale said. We call them family members. Each bowl made by family members had their name, a request for prayer, and a unique decoration. One said, "You're a shining star." Operation Inasmuch started having family members create some of the bowls last year. Champion said those bowls tend to sell faster than the bowls made by professional potters. Champion said the volunteers not only to help those in need, but also to stay in touch with the other volunteers. My favorite part is the camaraderie, Champion said. Staff writer Monica Ventioli can be reached at mventioli at Fayetteobserver.com or at 486-3596. You can submit your ideas. The Monday Moment highlights everyday silence of life happenings in the community. If you have a story idea, you can email it. Email news at Fayetteobserver.com. Put Monday Moment in the subject line.
Final command episode follows third group. Over a 2-year span, television crews followed U.S. troops to wherever the global war on violent extremism took them, from the front lines of the fight to liberate Mosul in Iraq to the streets of Trinidad and Tobago and the forward operating bases of southwest Afghanistan. The fruit of those efforts, National Geographic's 8-part documentary series Chain of Command, ends with the final episode tonight at 9 p.m. The episode, Part 8, Why We Fight, will once again feature Fort Bragg soldiers who have played a key role throughout not only the series, but the long-running war on terror. That includes 3rd Special Forces Group soldiers who were deployed to Niger during the filming of Chain of Command. The series finale will look at their mission in the country and explore the impact of the death of 4 soldiers following an ambush in Niger last fall. Staff Sergeant Brian C. Black, Staff Sergeant Jeremiah W. Johnson, Staff Sergeant Dustin M. Wright, and Sergeant David Johnson were killed during the October 4th attack along the Niger border. chain of command crews captured footage of 3 of the soldiers while preparing for the series. That footage and a subsequent memorial at Fort Bragg is featured in the episode. Scott Bogans, showrunner and executive producer for Chain of Command, said crews spent a little more than 2 weeks with a 3rd Special Forces group in Niger. The goal was the same as any other unit the show filmed, he said. We want to get a sense of who they are, Bogans said. Throughout Chain of Command, Bogans said the goal was to tell a character-driven story of the War on Terror, why it's important for the nation, and why it's important to the individuals on the front lines. And that's true especially the aptly named Why We Fight. Colonel Bradley Moses, the commander of the 3rd Special Forces Group, is introduced during the episode as he readies for the Fort Bragg Memorial for Black, Johnson, Wright, and Johnson. He said, "No commander wants to lose a soldier. That is part of what we do." Moses repeats a phrase that has been his mantra as 3rd Group commander: care for the wounded, honor the fallen, and continue the mission. He said the 4 soldiers lost in Niger believed in their mission. This isn't a job, Moses said. It's a lifestyle, and they've all chosen to be a part of it. People serve for different reasons, he said. Some are profound, others are simple. They serve because they can and because they should. The nation needs them, Moses said. Bogans said a lot of work went into making Chain of Command. Crews spent weeks with the units they covered, but some days only filmed a few minutes. People aren't used to having cameras in their worlds or following them, he said. The crews and the troops would both need to get comfortable with each other for the show to work. We try to keep a light footprint as best we can, Bogans said. You want to be the fly on the wall. At the same time, you want to be able to react, and you want to be able to cover what's going on in a really interesting way. We're producing a documentary in real time, he added. We're recording history. Crews were in Niger weeks before the deadly attack that no one could have predicted. They spoke to several of the soldiers, showing their daily lives on their small outpost in Niger as they prepared for missions and sat down for a meal. Bogans said knowing that Black, Johnson, Wright, and Johnson were killed didn't change the approach to making the show, but it did bring an added weight to the work. It was absolutely tragic what happened, and we wanted to tell the story the best we could, he said. At Fort Bragg's John F. Kennedy Memorial Chapel, crews were able to film as Moses and the other 3rd Group soldiers honor their fallen teammates. Moses said the 4 were among a team that was attacked by an enemy that didn't want them to make this small spot in the world a better place. As they were ambushed, the soldiers planted their feet and fought, he said. Under overwhelming fire, each man did their job. As the vehicles were completely destroyed and the men nearly out of ammunition, they made a decision much bigger than themselves, Moses said. He recounted how the soldiers, not wanting to compromise other American forces throughout the region, made one last call before shutting off communication. Broken Arrow. The radio call dates back to Special Forces missions in Vietnam. It means that U.S. forces are being overrun. After making the call, the soldiers zeroed their secured communications and broke contact with their higher command. Their bodies were recovered with the help of Nigerian forces, another Special Forces team, other special operators, and French partners. The story of the loss of the soldiers is told across Why We Fight. The episode also features military leaders in Washington answering questions about the Niger deaths. Scenes are overlaid with the sound of news reports. But as leaders answer questions about what went wrong, Chain of Command focuses on why the soldiers were on the African continent in the first place. We are experts of the basics, said Major Alan Bonson, one of the 3rd Group soldiers featured in Chain of Command. Shoot, move, communicate, and survive. Special Forces soldiers can teach those basics to anyone, anywhere in the world, he said. A team of 12 can work with 600 to 700 partner forces. In Niger, the 3rd Group soldiers were working with allies fighting terrorism along their borders. They were bolstering and building the Niger army from the inside in an attempt to close a safe haven for extremist forces fleeing the wars in Iraq and Syria. Bogans said it was important for Chain of Command to show that the fight against terrorism is a global battlefield. He said the goal was to show that extremism manifests itself differently across the world and that actions in one country can affect effects in another. We really felt that these were important stories, and they were stories that needed to be told. Bogan said, "We felt very much invested in making sure that we get it right and do it in a way that viewers can watch and understand." Bogan said crews did not set knowing that Fort Bragg troops would feature so prominently in the series. In addition to 3rd Special Forces Group, soldiers from the 18th Airborne Corps and 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 83rd Airborne Division, are featured in earlier episodes. Other North Carolina troops that play a key role in the series are Marines from Camp Lejeune. Bogan said the troops are the stars of the chain of command. "We were able to learn who they were and then see it through their eyes and get a sense of their commitment and sacrifices in the mission," he said. "We hope at that point we can perhaps help understand the larger questions of what's going on. We're very fortunate that we were given the opportunity to do that," he added. When asked if Chain of Command would return for a second series, Bogan said no decision has been made. "We're right now just wrapping up, still very much getting Season 1 to bed," he said. "If and when Season 2 comes along, we'd love to do it again." The final episode of Chain of Command, narrated by Captain America actor Chris Evans, will air tonight at 9 p.m. on National Geographic. For more information or to see past episodes of the documentary series, go to channel.nationalgeographic.com/chain-of-command. Military editor Drew Brooks can be reached by emailing dbrooks@fayobserver.com or by calling area code 910-486-3567.
Army updates rules for hazardous duty pay. Paratroopers who miss a jump within the required 3-month time frame because aircrafts aren't available for other unforeseen circumstances can make it up and still receive parachute hazardous duty pay, according to a revamped Department of Defense instruction. The change will allow paratroopers to keep their pay when circumstances out of their control prevent them from performing jumps. Paratroopers are required to jump once every 3 months as a standard for remaining proficient on airborne operations. The change was recommended by Major General Eric Carilla, commander of the 82nd Airborne Division, and approved last month by the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. Airborne leaders also are discussing a possible increase in compensation for jump masters, who inspect paratrooper equipment and lead aircraft actions during airborne operations. Command Sergeant Major Charles Albertson of the 18th Airborne Corps that oversees the 82nd Airborne Division said the change has been in the works for about a year. "I think it's absolutely something that leaders have noticed," he said. "As we started assessing, we saw these parachute hazardous duty pay rules hadn't been updated for some time. Paratroopers must jump once every 3 months and are compensated with $150 per month in hazardous duty pay, which is automatically dispensed. Under the old rule, if a paratrooper missed a jump in that period, regardless of the reason, the pay had to be returned to the government. The rule remained the same for more than 60 years. That meant soldiers lost for not jumping, even if jumps were missed for deployments. That wasn't taken into account is how busy the Army is," Albertson said. "There's so many places around the world we're supporting, so to have soldiers lose pay, we need to balance staying proficient with the airborne skill set and supporting mission requirements. The updated instruction gives battalion commanders leeway to make exceptions to the 3-month rule so paratroopers can continue to collect monthly parachute hazardous pay. Now paratroopers can jump twice during a 6-month period, including 2 jumps within the same month, to keep pay for 2 consecutive 3-month periods. If there are waivers for non-availability of aircraft, adverse weather, absence of military training or education for less than 179 days, combat operations or a deployment. In lieu of jumping, paratroopers must attend airborne refresher training during the waived period to maintain proficiency. We're looking to do our best to maintain our readiness and not have them unduly be penalized for missing jumps, Albertson said. Staff writer Amanda Dolesinski can be reached at adolesinski@fayetteobserver.com or 486-3528.
This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our address is P.O. Box 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at area code 910-672-1600 or toll free at 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts are
Evelyn Simonette
and Robert Dean, and we are proud to serve you today. Scholarships available for students. Cumberland Community Foundation is inviting students to apply for $166,000 in scholarships available in awards ranging from $500 to $10,000. The deadline to apply is March 30th. Many of these scholarships are based on financial need and require applicants to submit their student aid report, which results from submission of the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA. If students have a valid email address, the student and report will be available online once the FAFSA has been completed, said Susan Barnes, Foundation Scholarship Manager. Students should allow enough time to complete their FAFSA application online in order to upload the student aid report into their application by the scholarship deadline. 2 new scholarships are available this year. The William F. Bill II Scholarship, Cumberland County Farm Bureau Federation Incorporated, is available for children or grandchildren of current members of the Cumberland County Farm Bureau. The II Scholarship was created in memory of Bill II by members of Cumberland County Farm Bureau Federation Incorporated in appreciation for his leadership and service to farmers and to make college education accessible to deserving students. Also, the Durham and Lucy Riddle Scholarship is available for students who attend Southview or Grays Creek High Schools and will attend Campbell University or Methodist College. Durham and Lucy Riddle were lifelong residents of the Grays Creek community. Among Durham's many activities and community involvements was his service on the Cumberland County Farm Service Agency, or ASCS, committee, and Lucy was a retired teacher with 37 years of service, primarily at Grays Creek Elementary School. Applications and detailed instructions are available on the Foundation's website at cumberlandcf.org or the Foundation's Facebook page. For more information, contact Barnes at 483-4449, extension 108, or email her at susan@cumberlandcf.org. Additional information on financial aid is available at College Foundation of North Carolina, their website cfnc.org, and the free application for federal student aid, or fafsa.ed.gov. Cumberland Community Foundation is a nonprofit charitable foundation that raises a permanent endowment for the benefit of the community. The foundation has $80 million in assets and has awarded more than $51 million in grants and scholarships since 1980. And applause. Jennifer Stevenson of Fayetteville, daughter of Victoria and Brian Stevenson, was named to the Fall 2017 Dean's List at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. And Eugenie Vorda Bruege, daughter of Julia Little and William Vorda Bruege, was named to the Fall 2017 Dean's List at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina.
Public safety, Cumberland County arrests Gunafus Robinson, 40, of the 1300 block of Sapona Road, was charged Sunday with larceny, possession of stolen goods and property, and conspiracy. Bail was set at $5,000. Ulysses Mitchell Jr., 49, of the 1400 block of Lottie Street, was charged Sunday with violation of a domestic violence protective order. No bail was listed. Mikhail Flemings, 21, of the 1000 block of Trade Street, was charged Saturday with possession of intent to manufacture, sell, or distribute a Schedule 6 controlled substance and maintaining a dwelling or vehicle for a controlled substance. Bail was set at $1,000. Josh Thomas Miller Jr., 52, of the 5100 block of Watauga Road, was charged Saturday with fraud by false pretense or trickery. Bail was set at $6,000. Bryce Bailey Norris, 18, of the 2900 block of Brook Crossing Drive, was charged Saturday with embezzlement of property received by virtue of office or employment and larceny by servants and other employees. Bail was set at $10,000. Daniel Clayton McCoy, 27, of 4200 block of Coventry Avenue, was charged Saturday with fraud by false pretense or trickery. Bail was set at $1,000. Bernie M. Keisler Jr., 37, of the 100 block of Rackley Place, Elizabethtown, was charged Sunday with 2 counts of habitual larceny and 1 count apiece of conspiracy to commit larceny, possession of stolen goods and property, and misdemeanor second-degree trespass and larceny. Bail was set at $5,500. Vehicle break-in, Alanis Road, 4800 block, reported at 11:28 a.m. Saturday. A wallet, headphones, handgun, and folding chair were taken.
Bragg schools get new superintendent. Veteran who taught school for more than 30 years has been chosen as district superintendent for the Department of Defense Education Activities Mid-Atlantic Schools, which includes Fort Bragg. Donald Dorado was named Friday. Charlie Council, who has been acting district superintendent since January, will serve as chief of staff for the Mid-Atlantic District. The former superintendent, Emily Marsh, retired in December. I look forward to leading the great educators and administrators of this district and providing each child with an equitable and quality education, Dorado said. He will be leaving his position as the community superintendent of DODEA schools in Puerto Rico. Dorado began his career with DODEA in 1993. Before that, he taught at elementary schools in Puerto Rico. Among his honors, Dorado has earned the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program Teach Recognition Award, congressional recognition for outstanding service to his community, and DODEA District Teacher of the Year. As director of the district, Quadrado will oversee schools in North Carolina, Virginia, New York, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. The district has 26 schools on 8 installations that serve more than 10,000 students. Judith Miner, director of the DODEA America, said Quadrado brings a wealth of experience to the district. Donato is a very talented and dedicated leader who is committed to student achievement and success, she said. He understands the uniqueness of the military culture as a former soldier who served 4 years and as an educator with more than 30 years of experience.
Get ready for March to Work Job Fair. Are you an employer looking for qualified, motivated talent to help move your organization forward? Or are you a job seeker trying to find a new job? If so, mark the Department of Social Services March to Work job fair on your calendar. March to Work will be held March 21st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Crown Expo Center, 1960 Coliseum Drive. The annual job fair brings around 100 employers and thousands of job seekers under one roof. Businesses with current and upcoming openings are invited to register to participate at no charge. Employers will be provided with a booth that includes a table and chairs. In addition to helping businesses recruit new workers, March to Work job fair is an opportunity for companies to gain exposure and be seen by thousands of people in the community. Thousands of job seekers attend this extraordinary event. The potential for businesses to find employees is huge, said Tony Wright Harris, job fair coordinator. Business representatives will be able to talk about their company and employment opportunities that they have available with potential employees. Job seekers who attend the event have a wide range of skill sets, from those who are professional or highly technical to those who are semi to unskilled. Employers who are interested in participating at the job fair can register by contacting Wright Harris at 677-2151 or Robert Relia at 677-2222. Better Living. Cumberland County Cooperative Extension will hold the Better Living Series workshop, Backyard Chickens, Start Your Flock, on March 6th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Call 321-6405 or email Susan_son@ncsu.edu for more information to register. Learn what it takes to raise baby chicks, with information about animal care, nutrition, housing, and do-it-yourself feeders. The $5 registration fee is due March 6th. Severe Weather Awareness Week. March 4th through 10th is Severe Weather Awareness Week, which will focus on tornadoes, large hail, lightning, flash flooding, and straight-line winds. One way to better prepare for severe weather is to sign up for Cumberland Alerts, the county's emergency alert system, to receive notifications of severe weather. It's free and easy to sign up. Just go to the county's homepage at co.cumberland.nc.us and click on the Cumberland Alerts icon at the top corner or bottom of the page. Blood Drive Thursday. You can help save a life by giving blood. The Cape Fear Valley Blood Donor Center will hold a blood drive Thursday from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. outside the Judge E. Morris Braswell Cumberland County Courthouse at 117 Dick Street. Walk-ins are welcome, but donors need to bring a photo identification and eat a nutritious meal before donating. Just look for the vessel, the Blood Donor Center bus, on the Person Street side of the courthouse. John Souls of the Public Information Specialist for Cumberland County Government. You can reach him at 321-6579 or jsouls@co.cumberland.nc.us.
Opinion. The Observer's editorials. Gerrymandering challenges ignite political turmoil. All the political choices we'll have this year. If only we knew what they might be. So far, it's been an encouraging year for candidates' announcements. The State Board of Elections and its local counterparts have been busy places as candidates for races from Soil and Water Commissioner, up to congressional seats march in and file. It appears that many incumbents will face challengers beginning with the primaries. And a lot of those challengers are smart and well prepared, and that's a good thing. A challenged candidate is an accountable candidate, especially if they're facing a strong opponent. All of this is interesting, but also perplexing. In many of these races, we can't be sure just who we'll be seeing on our ballots, especially come November. Years of extreme gerrymandering have led to dozens of lawsuits contesting the drawing of district lines for congressional seats and for those in the General Assembly. Some of the suits targeted racial gerrymandering, and they led to changes in district maps that have been upheld all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. In other suits, voters and public interest groups have also challenged the core principle of redistricting. It's okay to redraw districts with political intent. In the days before computers, political gerrymandering was routinely approved by the courts as legal and constitutional. But now, with computer-drawn maps, the party that rules the state legislature can give itself an enormous advantage that is far out of proportion to the party's actual membership. So it happened in North Carolina, where Republican registration numbers are far behind Democrats and even slightly behind the number of unaffiliated voters. Despite that, the GOP holds a veto-proof majority in both houses of the General Assembly and also owns 10 of North Carolina's 13 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and both of the state's U.S. Senate seats. Lawsuits attacking political gerrymandering have made progress in the federal courts, and the U.S. Supreme Court will rule by June on a case from Wisconsin that challenges political gerrymandering there. If the justices reverse long-standing precedent and rule against Wisconsin's voting districts, it could change electoral maps in many states, and certainly in this one. The only question, if that happens, is when the justices will order an apolitical redrawing of the maps and whether it would affect this year's elections. Redrawing of this state's congressional seats 2 years ago, after the courts ruled against racial gerrymandering, put Fayetteville in 2 new congressional districts, stretching the 8th and 9th districts from Charlotte to here and bringing 2 new congressmen to town, Republicans Richard Hudson and Robert Pittenger. Both will have opponents in November, and Pittenger also faces what's likely to be a strong primary challenge. The 2 congressmen have worked hard to become familiar faces in Fayetteville, and another change in district lines could be difficult for them and confounding for voters. General Assembly districts were challenged several times in the past few years, and the latest boundaries weren't settled until hours before the primary filing period opened this month. In Cumberland County, the state Senate and House districts were substantially changed, and local lawmakers are scrambling to introduce themselves to the new voters they just gained. Some lawsuits are still pending, and further changes could bring political chaos in the upcoming primary, as well as in November. And yet, it's hard to argue in favor of our bizarrely drawn districts that have little relation to anything but helping incumbents get re-elected. The method by which voting districts are drawn desperately needs change, and the courts are increasingly coming to agree. We hope that the U.S. Supreme Court concurs, and we can soon step away from gerrymandering and into a new era in which voting districts are drawn in ways that serve the voters best.
Child soldiers of the gun control war, Jonah Goldberg. In the wake of the horrific slaughter in Parkland, Florida, a cadre of energized and understandably traumatized teenagers has flooded Washington and the airways to say remarkably passionate, occasionally extreme things about guns and the need for gun control, because these teens are politically effective. A bunch of goons, buffoons, and trolls have flooded conspiracy theories aimed at discrediting them. I won't be more specific than that because it's all reprehensibly vile. At the same time, quite a few advocates of gun control, including many who claim the mantle of objective journalism, have taken the view that these kids cannot be criticized or gainsaid in any way. Apparently, it's fine to push kids suffering from post-traumatic stress or still grieving parents of murdered children in front of cameras in order to drive public policy. But it's an affront to decency to disagree with what they say or question the practice of using victims this way. No, it's not morally equivalent to some of the horrendous things the swamp dwellers have said about these kids, but that it's a low bar. Of course, the parents and the surviving kids aren't being forced to do anything. They clearly want to be heard, and they have every right to do what they're doing. Indeed, they're entitled to their rage and grief. They are right to be furious, but fury in and of itself is the enemy of reason. This point was once obvious to many of the people eagerly hiding behind these children to wage a political battle in the wake of 9/11 attacks and countless terrorist attacks since then. The op-ed pages in the airways bulged with the cautions that we not let vengeance or anger cloud our judgment. And that's what I find so tawdry and mercenary about all of this. I can scarcely imagine that the same people taunting and the unimpeachable wisdom of children would have the same position if the children of terror attack victims called for, say, a ban on Muslims entering the country. Of course, the response for many people to this counterfactual would be, but that's a bad idea, or that would be unconstitutional. And that's my point exactly. And in enlightenment-based democracy, the validity of an argument is supposed to stand independent of the person or people making it. 2 + 2 = 4, whether a child says so or a demagogue denies it. Of course, in real life, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes credibility or moral authority carries more weight than arguments, and perhaps more often passion and emotion sways. For instance, the NRA, not content with its public policy and constitutional victories over the past decade, has taken the fermenting rage and resentment against elites and the media with all the precision of an unmanned fire hose. As best as I can glean from some of the ads, the point seems to be that you should keep paying your dues because the NRA is the only thing that will keep gun owners from being triggered, so to speak, by the New York Times. Of course, I feel sorry for the victims. I don't feel sorry for the NRA. When you turn the volume to 10 on everything, you shouldn't be surprised when your opponents invent an even louder 11. Jonah Goldberg is an editor-at-large at National Review Online and a visiting fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Email him at jonascolumn@aol.com.
State Sphere for Election Security by Steve Peoples, The Associated Press, Washington. Will your vote be safe this year from foreign adversaries working to undermine U.S. democracy? Some of the nation's governors aren't so sure. State leaders of both parties worried aloud Sunday about the security of America's election systems against possible cyber attacks ahead of this fall's midterm elections, aware that Russian agents targeted more than 20 states little more than a year ago, and the Trump administration has taken a mostly hands-off approach to the continued interference. U.S. intelligence leaders report Russian hackers are already working to undermine this November's elections, which will decide the balance of power in Congress and in state houses across the nation. In my lifetime, I've never seen anything like this. It's scary, Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo, a Democrat, said. The biggest concern is when you have a president and an administration that denies the problem and doesn't acknowledge the existence of the problem. It's hard to believe that they're going to be offering any real solutions or funding to make our systems more secure. Election security has been overshadowed by a near-constant string of chaos and controversy out of the White House over the last year. As most of the nation's governors gathered in Washington for a weekend conference, issues like gun violence, Trump's leadership, and the economy dominated most hallway conversations. Yet nonpartisan experts and both Democratic and Republican elected officials suggest there is no issue more critical to American democracy than the integrity of the nation's elections, which are facing unprecedented cyber attacks. The Trump administration has so far done little to help secure the mishmash of 10,000 local voting jurisdictions across the nation that mostly run on obsolete and imperfectly secured technology. Russian agents targeted election systems in 21 states ahead of the 2016 general election, the Department of Homeland Security says, and separately launched a social media blitz aimed at inflaming social tensions and sowing confusion. The search for a solution has been shaped by partisan politics. While Democratic governors lashed out at the Trump administration for ignoring the threat, some Republicans, such as Kentucky Governor Matt Fayettville, insisted the media are overstating the problem. Several other Republicans, however, were openly concerned about outside interference and declined to criticize the Trump administration's inaction. There's obviously nothing more important than protecting the mechanism of democracy, and they've shown that they can at least meddle, if not directly influence. Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam, who leads the Republican Governors Association, said of Russian hackers, "We're paying attention to it."
Congress has ideas on gun violence, but no consensus. After a 10-day break, members of Congress are returning to work under hefty pressure to respond to outcry over gun violence. But no plan appears ready to take off despite a long list of proposals, including many from President Donald Trump. Republican leaders have kept quiet for days as Trump tossed out ideas including raising the minimum age to purchase assault-type weapons and arming teachers. Though on Saturday the president tweeted that the latter was up to states. Their silence has left little indication whether they are ready to rally their ranks behind any one of the president's ideas, dust off another proposal, or do nothing. The most likely legislative proposal is bolstering the federal background check system for gun purchases, but it's bogged down after being linked with a less popular measure to expand gun rights. The halting start reflects firm GOP opposition to any bill that would curb access to guns and risks antagonizing gun advocates in their party. Before the February 14 shooting at a high school in Parkland, Florida, that killed 17 people, Republicans had no intentions of reviving the polarizing and politically risky gun debate during an already difficult election year that could endanger their congressional majority.
This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. In making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our address is P.O. Box 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at area code 910-672-1600 or toll free at 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts are
Beverlyn Seminat
and Robert Dean, and we are proud to serve you today. It's the top of the hour, time for the obituaries. Death notices. The following deaths have been reported. Upcoming editions of the Fayetteville Observer will contain complete obituary information. In Cumberland County, Vaughn J. Mocklow, 26 of Hope Mills, Adcock Funeral Home and Crematory. Retired Master Sergeant Harry Junius Alton, 86 of Fayetteville, Rogers and Breese Funeral Home. Logie M. Stevenson Sr., 75 of Parkton, Cunningham and Sons Mortuary. Clara J. Milan, 88, of Fayetteville, Lafayette Funeral Home. In the Cape Fear region, Johnny Herring, 87, of Fayetteville, formerly of Roseboro, Butler & Son Funeral Home, Roseboro. And Marvin L. McCoy, 52, of Brayford Purcell Funeral Home, Laurenburg. In Cumberland County, Betty Locklear Cummings, 75, of Fayetteville, died Friday, February 23, 2018. The funeral will be Wednesday at 2 p.m. at Fayetteville Assembly of God. The visitation will be at 11:45 a.m. to 1:45 p.m. at the Fayetteville Assembly of God on Wednesday. The burial will be at Fayetteville Memorial Cemetery. Services entrusted to Rogers and Brees Funeral Home. Region and elsewhere. Roy James Wilson Sr., 62, of Turkey, died Thursday, February 22, 2018. The funeral will be Tuesday at 2 p.m. at Wilson Chapel Missionary Baptist Church in Turkey. The visitation will be at Worley Funeral Home in Clinton, Tuesday from 9 a.m. to noon. The burial will be at Wilson Chapel Church Cemetery in Turkey. Services are entrusted to Worley Funeral Home of Clinton. And Curry Robinson Long Jr., 63, of Bladenboro, died Sunday, February 25, 2018. The funeral will be held Tuesday at 2 p.m. at Sandy Grove Baptist Church. The visitation will be at Bladen Gaskins Funeral Home Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the burial will be at Long Cemetery, and Bladen Gaskins Funeral Home provided the services. And Catherine Maxine McLaurin Anders, 70, of Fayetteville, passed away on Friday, February 23, 2018. The family will welcome friends from 11 to 12 on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, at First Presbyterian Church. Her funeral service will follow in the sanctuary at 12. She will be buried at Lafayette Memorial Park following the service. In lieu of flowers, please make donations to SECU Hospice House, 426 Hospital Road, P.O. Box 1376, Smithfield, North Carolina 27577. Online condolences may be made at sullivanshighland.com. Services are entrusted to Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service and Crematory. And that concludes today's obituaries.
Dear Abby, work leaves single mom with little time for son. Dear Abby, I'm 29. I had a son 6 years ago and left my ex because he didn't want to be a father. He chose to party instead. I had to file a name change for my son, and custody was hard to fight for because the father refused to show up. Since then, I've worked 2 and sometimes 3 jobs just to stay ahead. My child hardly sees me. I work so much that my son has stopped calling me mommy, and instead he calls me by my name. I feel hopeless and that I'm working for nothing. Have I made a mistake working so much? Mommy in Maryland. Dear Mommy, if you are working those long hours in order to pay your bills, you are doing what a parent is supposed to do, providing for your child. Because your ex isn't doing his share, get on the internet and research child support for single mothers. Resources are available to help you. As to your son no longer calling you mommy, I would have to ask where he got the idea he would call you anything else. Have you asked him? Rather than accept it, make clear that he has only one mommy. You are it, and you will not tolerate being called anything else. Dear Abby, I've been seeing someone for 6 or 7 months, but we have been together for only 3. He's quite the package, except he can't handle confrontation and doesn't quite communicate well. His way of handling uncomfortable conversations is to avoid them, while I, on the other hand, tend to be very communicative. Is there a way for both of us to be happy when dealing with difficult conversations? Is there anything I can do to make him more comfortable with them? I should add that he hasn't been in a relationship in forever. I'm happy with him, but communication is important to me. Verbal in the West. Dear Verbal, has it occurred to you that this man may not have been in a relationship in forever because he can't deal with uncomfortable conversations? For many women, that would be a deal breaker. While not all men are comfortable with long, heartfelt conversations, the only way to arrive at a compromise is to talk with each other. Give him more time because your relationship is still new. But if he isn't capable of opening up, recognize it as an important red flag if you are contemplating a long relationship with him. Dear Abby, my son's best friend's bike was stolen from our front yard, and I feel terrible about it. Up to this point, he had been careful to put it in our garage or by our front door when he came over. It was new, and I want to offer to help pay for a new one if we don't get it. My husband disagreed. I know the child's parents don't expect it, but I feel it's the right thing to do. Feeling guilty in Texas. Dear Feeling Guilty, while it would be generous to offer to help pay for the bike, you should not feel obligated or guilty because you did nothing wrong. One can only hope the boy has learned an important lesson from what happened. In the future, he will make sure his bike is safely parked inside your garage and not out where the thief can snatch it. Readers can write to Dear Abby at dearabby.com or P.O. Box 69440, Los Angeles, California 90069. Universal Click.
Billy Graham, only Christ can truly strengthen your resolve. LDW writes, I've done it again. I've already broken every New Year's resolution I made for this year. Every year I start out determined to keep my resolutions, but before I know it, I failed. I shouldn't bother. Why do I do this? What's wrong with me? The answer, I suspect you're not alone. Every year, countless people start out resolving to change their lives, but end up failing. Sometimes it's because their goals weren't realistic, or because they didn't plan exactly how they were going to reach them. But usually, it's simply because we don't have the inner moral and spiritual strength we need to change our lives. Like you, they wanted to do better, and they knew they needed to do better, but they still failed. I'm reminded of the Apostle Paul's experience in this regard. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans chapter 7, verse 18. What is the problem? The problem is that each one of us has been infected with a spiritual disease that cripples and weakens us, a disease the Bible calls sin. Even if we succeed in changing our lives in some ways, we still fail in other ways. This is why we need Christ, for only He can forgive our sins, and only He can help us and give us the inner strength to live the way we should. By a simple prayer of faith, turn to Jesus Christ, asking Him to forgive your sins and come into your life by His Holy Spirit. Then ask Him to show you what kind of person He wants you to be, and He will as you read His Word, the Bible, and get connected with the church, where you'll learn what it means to follow Christ. Readers can write to the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, 1 Billy Graham Parkway, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28201, or call 877-2-GRAHAM. The website for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association is at billygraham.org. Tribune Media Services.
Today's horoscope by Stella Wilder. If you were born today, you are one who takes getting used to, as those who meet you are not always favorably impressed. You may even actively rub some people the wrong way at first. In time, however, those who don't turn away from you are likely to come under your unique spell. Pisces, February 19th through March 20th. You can score an Empress lead. Taurus, April 20th through May 20th. What's your attitude and your approach? Gemini, 21st through June 20th. You may have the chance to play today for someone who is in need of rescue. You're in the right lines today, but you'll learn a thing or two about patience. Focus on what you have now, the 23rd through November 21st. You are waiting for someone to spell something out, but you can't wait forever. It'll soon be time for you to get on with things. Sagittarius, November 22nd through December 21st. You're waiting for a decision for someone, and you're thinking there must be something to do to speed things up. There isn't. Capricorn, December 22nd through January 19th. The attraction between you and someone else may heat up quite suddenly. Take care that you don't make unwise decisions. Aquarius, January 20th through February 18th. Tension between you and a good friend can be eased today if one of you will simply choose to let bygones be bygones. It may be your turn.
Support groups for Monday. Celebrate Recovery meets from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Erin Lake Baptist Church on 1130 Bingham Drive. This is a multi-denominational, Christ-based 12-step program. It can include post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, abuse, drugs, alcohol, and more. For more information, call 424-7211 or contact John at 723-2319. Suicide Grief Support Group meets at 6:30 p.m. at Manna Church on 5117 Cliffdale Road, Building A. For those who are grieving the loss of a relative, friend, co-worker, or loved one due to suicide. For more information, call area code 910-302-8548. The Tia Hart Community Recovery Program meets from 7 to 8 p.m. at 116 East Elwood Avenue in Rayford. For more information, call 848-1872. Al-Anon meets at 7 p.m. at Haymount United Methodist Church Youth Activity Center on 1900 Fort Bragg Road. For more information, call 678-8002. Divorce Care meets from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at Manna Church on 5117 Cliffdale Road. For more information, contact Tim or Tracy at 892-5439. Christ We Do Recover meets from 8 to 9 p.m. at Hope Harbor Christian Mission on US 301 South Service Road. This is an open meeting and it deals with chemical dependency. For more information, contact Woody by calling 423-0608 or 424-8800, extension 272. Alcoholics Anonymous has several meetings on Mondays. There are 7 a.m., noon, 5:30, and 8 p.m. meetings at 626 Sandalwood Drive. There's a 10 a.m. meeting at 40 Marion Road in Lumberton. Holy Trinity Episcopal Church on 1601 Rayford Road has a noon meeting. There are noon and 5:30 p.m. meetings at 604 German Street. There is a noon and 6:30 p.m. meeting at 401 East 1st Street in Lumberton. Highland Presbyterian Church on 111 Highland Avenue has a 6:30 p.m. meeting. My Rover Reese on 560 Wilkes Road has a 6:30 p.m. meeting. Spring Lake Methodist Church on 111 North Bragg Boulevard in Spring Lake has a 7 p.m. meeting. United Methodist Church on 4955 Legion Road in Hope Mills has an 8 p.m. meeting. And there is an 8 p.m. meeting at 400 Prospect Road in Pembroke. The Alcoholics Anonymous hotlines are 678-8733 or 678-8002. Recovery in Action meets at 8 p.m. at Manna Church on 5117 Cliffdale Road. For more information, call 867-9151. The Landing, a meeting for teens 13 to 18 seeking healing from their hurts, hang-ups, and habits, meets from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Aaron Lake Baptist Church Family Life Center on 1130 Bingham Drive. Narcotics Anonymous. To find weekly meeting times and locations, call 866-418-9500. Go to their website, crna.org. People Assisting Victims meets at 7:30 p.m. at Cumberland Community Foundation Building on Green Street. Sex Addicts Anonymous. To find meeting times and locations, call 1-800-477-8191. Take Off Pounds Sensibly meets at 5:30 p.m. at First Baptist Church on 202 Summit Drive in Sanford. For more information, call 1-800-932-8677 or visit their website, tops.org. That's tops.org. Home meets from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Church of the Open Door Fellowship Hall. Home is a homeschool group for the Fayetteville area. The group can be contacted through its website, homepatriots.com. And those are Monday's support groups.
Congress has ideas on gun violence, but no consensus. There's no magic bill that's going to stop the next thing from happening when so many laws are already on the books that weren't being enforced, that were broken, said Republican Representative Steve Scalise, Republican of Louisiana, the third-ranking House GOP leader. When asked about solutions, the breakdowns that happen, this is what drives people nuts, said Scalise, who suffered life-threatening injuries when a gunman opened fire on lawmakers' baseball team practice last year. Under tough public questioning from shooting survivors, Trump has set high expectations for action. I think we're going to have a great bill put forward very soon having to do with background checks, having to do with getting rid of certain things and keeping other things, and perhaps, well, we'll do something on age, Trump said in a Fox News Channel interview Saturday night. He added, we're drawing up strong legislation right now having to do with background checks, mental illness. I think you will have tremendous support. It's time. It's time. Trump's early ideas were met with mixed reactions from his party. His talk of allowing teachers to carry concealed weapons into classrooms was rejected by at least one Republican, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, House Speaker Paul Ryan, Republican of Wisconsin, and Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, both spoke to Trump on Friday. Their offices declined comment on the conversation or legislative strategy. Some Republicans back up Trump's apparent endorsement of raising the age minimum by buying some weapons. Senator Pat Roberts, Republican of Kansas, said he would support raising the age limits to buy a semi-automatic weapon like the one used in Florida. Rubio also supports lifting the age for rifle purchases. Representative Brian Mast, Republican of Florida, a longtime NRA member, wrote in the New York Times that he now supports an assault weapons ban.
5 dead after tornado flooding in the central U.S. by John Robbie, the Associated Press, Charleston, West Virginia. The death toll rose to at least 5 on Sunday after severe thunderstorms swept through the central U.S., spawning a tornado that flattened homes, gale force winds, and widespread flooding from the upper Midwest to Appalachia. The system that stretched from Texas to the Canadian Maritime provinces have prompted several emergency declarations even before the dangerous storms arrived. In southwestern Michigan, the body of a 48-year-old man was found floating in floodwaters Sunday in Kalamazoo. City Public Safety Lieutenant David Thomas said. Police were withholding the release of his name until notifying relatives. Thomas said the death didn't appear suspicious, but the cause wasn't known. An autopsy was planned as early as Monday. Kalamazoo was hard hit by flooding from last week's heavy rains and melting snow. In Kentucky, authorities said 3 people died. 2 bodies were recovered from submerged vehicles in separate incidents Saturday. A body was recovered from a vehicle that was in a ditch in western Kentucky near Morganfield, the Henderson Fire Department said on its Facebook page. The body has been sent to a medical examiner for an autopsy. And a male's body was pulled from a vehicle in a creek near the south-central Kentucky community of Franklin on Saturday, the Simpson County Sheriff's Office said in a statement. The victim's identity was being withheld pending notification of relatives. About 40 miles away, Dallas Jane Combs, 79, died after a suspected tornado destroyed her Adderville home earlier Saturday, the Logan County Sheriff's Office told media outlets. Sheriff officials said Combs was inside the home when it collapsed on her. Combs was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities said Combs' husband was outside putting up plastic to keep rain out of the home when he was blown into the basement area. He sustained minor injuries. The 5th death was in northeast Arkansas, where an 83-year-old man was killed after high winds toppled a trailer home. Clay County Sheriff Terry Miller told KAIT-TV that Albert Foster died Saturday night after the home was blown into a pond. About 50 miles away, the National Weather Service said the roof was blown off a hotel in Osceola, about 160 miles north of Memphis, Tennessee. In Middle Tennessee, the National Weather Service on Sunday confirmed an EF2 tornado with maximum winds of 120 miles per hour hit Clarksville on Saturday. Montgomery County Sheriff's Office spokeswoman Sandra Brandon said at least 4 homes were destroyed and dozens of others were damaged, while 75 cars at a tire plant parking lot had their windows blown out or were tossed onto one another. To look at what I'm looking at and know what we didn't lose anybody is just a miracle, Montgomery County Mayor Jim Durrett told the Lear Chronicle. At Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, a teenage girl was hit by falling debris at a college basketball game after an apparent lightning strike knocked a hole in the arena's roof Saturday night. School Director of Marketing and Digital Media Kevin Young said the 15-year-old girl was taken to a hospital as a precaution. The extent of her injuries weren't immediately released. The game between Austin Peay and Murray State was stopped with 5:49 left in the second half because of the leaky roof. Fans took shelter in nearby hallways and athletic offices before play resumed after more than a 3-hour delay. The governors of Missouri, Indiana, and Illinois declared disaster emergencies. Flood watches and warnings spanned multiple states Sunday morning, from Missouri to central Pennsylvania, while a wind advisory remained in effect for nearly all of lower Michigan. Wind gusts of up to 50 miles per hour in places downed power lines in several states, hugging Lake Michigan. Consumer Energy said Sunday it was working to restore power to more than 20,000 customers across Michigan. The Weather Service said moderate flooding was expected along the Ohio River in Kentucky and Ohio, including in Cincinnati, where the river was 8 feet above flood stage Sunday. Transportation officials said parts of Interstate 64 in Louisville, Kentucky were closed in both directions Sunday because of high water.
Trade Center bomb echoes after 25 years. In a room in the 9/11 Museum, there are police captains' poignant notes and a flashlight that illuminated the way to safety. Nearby, a letter from a trapped man tells his family, "I love you very much. Do wonderful things in your life." The artifacts are from September 11, 2001. They are reminders of a terror attack that foreshadowed it. The deadly World Trade Center bombing 25 years ago today. That shadow fell personally on Lolita Jackson. As a young finance worker, she picked her way down 72 flights of blackout stairs on February 26, 1993, and fled the Trade Center's South Tower again in 2001. The bombing tends to be forgotten because 9/11 was such a cataclysmic event, she says, but the blast has its own place in the lives and memories of an estimated 50,000 people who were in the Twin Towers that snowy afternoon. The explosion killed 6 people, injured over 1,000, manifested the growing terror threat from the Islamic extremists, and led to safety improvements credited with helping some people survive September 11. It was, in many respects, a precursor to 9/11, says museum president Alice Greenwald. A bomb exploded in a rented van in a basement parking garage shortly after noon, causing a crater several stories deep and a boom felt many floors above. The blast killed visitor John Giovanni and 5 people who worked at the Trade Center: Robert Kilpatrick, Stephen Knapp, William Michael, Wilfredo Mercado, and Monica Rodriguez Smith. Smith was pregnant. Power was knocked out and pipes were severed. Flooding backup generator. Elevator got stuck. A group of kindergartners was stranded for hours on an observation deck. Other people were trapped in the debris-filled garage. Police helicopters plucked nearly 24 people, some disabled, from rooftops. Some office workers broke out windows to try to clear smoke while awaiting help. Others made their way down, emergency coated in soot. Jackson didn't feel fearful at first. What was terrifying was 2.5-hour trek down the pitch-dark, crowded, smoky stairs, wondering what she would see at the bottom. You don't know what was going to happen, recalls Jackson, who now works in city government. Alone in a stalled elevator with smoke wafting in and no idea why, Trade Center worker Carl Salinga began to think he might not get out alive. So Salinga wrote a letter to his wife and children and waited. He was rescued after 5.5 hours. I felt with what I had to deal with, Salinga said at a recent discussion at the September 11 Museum. Within days, a fragment of the rented van began leading investigators to Muslim extremists who sought to punish the United States for its Middle East policies, especially its aids to Israel, according to prosecutors. As they pursued that case and learned about another plot to bomb New York City landmarks, then Manhattan U.S. Attorney Mary Jo White saw red lights blinking everywhere about how serious I thought this threat was from international terrorists. She told an audience Thursday at the museum. 6 bombing suspects were convicted and sentenced, including accused mastermind Ramzi Youssef, a nephew of Khalid Shalish Muhammad, who would later become self-professed architect of 9/11. A 7th bombing suspect, Abdul Rahman Yassin, remains at large and is on the FBI's list of most wanted terrorists. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts are
Robert Bean
and Beverlyn Simonette, and we are proud to serve you today.
from the Life section, Feminine, Masculine, Beautiful, and Strong. The vision behind Black Panther's stunning look by Robin Gibbon, The Washington Post. If there's a singular, exhilarating accomplishment that makes costume designer Ruth E. Carter especially proud of her work on Black Panther, the new big-screen Black superhero saga, it is the uniforms worn by the all-female security force called the Dora Milaje. The women, bold, athletic, and fearsome, are responsible for protecting King T'Challa, the character who comes to be known as Black Panther. Carter was determined to express their power, womanliness, history, and spirit through their costumes. It was a lot to ask of warrior wear, which on female characters in fantasy films very often resembles something more appropriate to a strip club. Comics are produced for boys, and they want the girls to be sexy and bad, Carter says. The Dora Milaje are wearing a corset in some of the comic book iterations. The culture we're in now, look at videos. Women are barely dressed. You don't want T'Challa's highest-ranking female fighting force walking around in bikinis. A lot of times, people are using the body and sex as a form of weaponry. I think that cheapens the look. I wanted to create a story behind the costumes and use elements that were attractive and intimidating because that's what they needed to be, Carter says. To that end, the veteran costumer researched the history's great warriors. The result is a costume that calls to mind the red hues of traditional Maasai attire, along with intricate beadwork that wraps around the neck and bodice. A single beaded tabard runs down the torso. There are tribal elements like rings to give it a beautiful sound when the women move, Carter says. Their armor pieces were made by a jewelry designer. I wanted them to have a hand-tooled presentation. Ultimately, she says with a note of triumph, the costumes were feminine, masculine, beautiful and strong, and without showing an inch of skin. When she finally presented her vision to director Ryan Coogler for his approval, I was speechless. I held my breath. When he asked questions, I could barely answer. I was just praying that he wouldn't change anything, she says. The director focused on subtleties. Was the tabard, the wide flap of fabric that falls like a shield below the breast, too long? He wondered whether the embossed metal buckle was the right size, or was it too big? No and no. It all worked. I cried, Carter says, not boo-hoo, but I got very emotional when it came to getting that costume right. Such are the burdens, expectations, and goals of Black Panther, the superhero movie that embraces African history, African artisans, comic book lore, and African art as sources of inspiration for its vividly colored, futuristic costumes. Carter, who graduated from Hampton University, has been creating film and television costumes for 30 years. She has worked on a host of Spike Lee films, from School Days to Do the Right Thing to Malcolm X, when she received an Oscar nomination, becoming the first African-American recognized for costume design. Her work on Steven Spielberg's Amistad was also nominated. She has yet to win. More recently, Carter created the well-received, era-appropriate fashion aesthetic for the cast of the Roots revival, Selma, Marshall, and The Butler. I think there's a definite bias in Hollywood for pretty pictures, Carter says. Now, pictures aren't pretty, even though they're accurate. Black Panther is her first blockbuster family or fantasy film.
Tomorrow Monday, cases, test, protest rules, legality. 13 months have passed since Carol Anderson and Dale Herman were convicted of trespass charges after refusing to leave the North Carolina Legislative Building during a Moral Monday protest over House Bill 2. Today, the protesters are due in Wake County Superior Court as part of an appeal that could decide whether North Carolina lawmakers went beyond their constitutional authority when amending rules that govern where people can go, when they can do, and how much noise they can make while inside the building where the lawmakers conduct their business. A ruling for the protesters could have an effect on other cases, including one lingering against the Reverend William J. Barber II, the former state NAACP leader and architect of the Moral Monday movement. Anderson and Herman, Durham residents, were arrested on May 16, 2016, protesting House Bill 2, the law restricting bathroom access for transgender people, which since has been partially repealed. On January 23, 2017, District Court Judge Joyce Hamilton found Anderson and Herman guilty of trespass charges, but dismissed allegations that they violated legislative building rules after finding those rules unconstitutional on several fronts. Not only does their attorney object to the rules, he also questioned the General Assembly's authority to operate its own police force. Prosecutors appealed the judge's order on the building rules, and that brought an unusual request from state lawmakers. Late last year, Paul Cobble, head of the Legislative Services Commission, asked to be allowed to intervene in the criminal cases. The commission is 10 lawmakers with Senate Leader Phil Berger and House Speaker Tim Moore, both Republicans, acting as chairman. The full commission did not meet to take up the question. Representative Darren Jackson, a Wake County Democrat, also on the commission, has said, nonetheless, the former North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Bob Edmonds, acting as their attorney, the lawmakers tried to persuade Superior Court Judge Carl Fox they should have a seat at the table. Scott Holmes, a Durham-based attorney representing the protesters, protested the request, calling it unprecedented to have an outside party intervening in the prosecution of a criminal case. I don't know of this ever happening, Holmes said. On January 31st, Fox ruled against the lawmakers represented by former Supreme Court Justice. In his order, the judge stated that the legislature had not cited a law showing that intervention in a criminal case was allowed. Getta Kapar, a Durham-based attorney, also represented the protesters, called Fox ruling a victory. The General Assembly police have used legislative building rules to arrest more than 1,000 protesters since 2013, when the Moral Monday protests began. The rules have been cited in arrests and tweaked more than once after court rulings went for the protesters. The changes were made after judges in Wake County presiding over the cases of protesters arrested in 2013. Moral Monday rallies found the rules to be vague and overly broad in some cases. That resulted in most of the cases being dismissed. In her court order on January 23, 2017, Hamilton found that the building rules were amended and adopted on 2014 outside the formal rule-making process. The judge also found that the Legislative Services Commission violates the state constitution's separation of powers clause because lawmakers, not the executive branch, made the changes. Holmes argued that instead of addressing their concerns through legislative building rules, the lawmakers should have taken a different route. If the General Assembly wanted to pass a law making it a misdemeanor to cause a disturbance in the legislative building, the General Assembly could follow the procedures set forth in the North Carolina Constitution for the passage of laws in the House, the Senate, and signature by the governor. Holmes stated in his brief appealing the case to the Superior Court. However, the General Assembly did not pass the contents of the legislative building rules as a general applicable criminal statute. Rather, the General Assembly delegated that the power to the Legislative Services Commission. In the request to intervene, Edmonds outlined the Legislative Services Commission concerns and why it wanted to intervene when the public already is represented by a district attorney. While it is not unusual for lawmakers to ask to intervene in civil cases and lawsuits challenging their laws, it is unusual for anyone, lawmakers, victims, or others, to intervene in criminal cases, Holmes said. Edmonds wrote in his request to represent lawmakers at the prosecutor's table that Hamilton's order was sweeping and vague in contending that many of the commissioner's duties are unconstitutional without giving further specification. The consequences of the order threatening the existence of the commission transcend criminal cases at issue here and the small portions of the commission's duties embodied in the promulgation of the legislative building rules. Edmonds stated in the intervention request, the district attorney's office is tasked with representing the people of North Carolina in criminal cases, and as such, the district attorney's interest in Judge Hamilton's order and its effects as to the Legislative Services Commission is limited solely to the extent the order affects the criminal cases at issue here. Edmonds George Hamilton's order, however, reaches much further than these particular misdemeanor charges. But prosecutors have not forwarded many of the same arguments and recent court findings that Edmonds made last year. In response to protesters asking for the trespassing verdict to be vacated, Wake County Assistant District Attorney Nisha Patel noted that the commission at the center of the case performs a variety of administrative and support functions through the Legislative Services Office, including information technology services, evaluation of state agency programs, fiscal research, bill drafting, and policy analysis, as well as providing day-to-day services such as the processing of paychecks and cafeteria services. Holmes contends that the Commission fails to follow rule-making processes that call for public notice, public hearings, and an analysis of legal authority for the rules being considered. Given the fact that the legislative building rules are being used to base decisions to arrest and charge people, the need to follow the letter of the law with respect to administrative procedure is even greater for the typical issue. Holmes argued. Holmes also has raised questions about the constitutionality of General Assembly having its own police force that has the power to arrest is supervised by lawmakers. Lawmakers, Holmes contends, have essentially created their own police force to enforce their own criminally enforceable building rules. This violates separation of power because the power to arrest and prosecute the laws is an essential executive and not a legislative function. Patel responded in court documents that what North Carolina lawmakers have set up is similar to what the U.S. Congress does. The prosecutor argued that the lawmakers need a way to keep order inside the building where laws are made. Patel also noted that the building rules leave it up to the courts, a separate branch of government, to find guilt or innocence of an individual accused of violations.
Tonight on television, ABC WTVD Channel 11 and WPDE Channel 15 from 8 to 10, The Bachelor. A visitor threatens Ari's happy future. From 10 to 11, The Good Doctor. Tonight's episode, Heartfelt. CBS, WNCN Channel 17, and WBTW Channel 13 from 8 to 8:30. Kevin Can Wait. From 8:30 to 9, Man with a Plan. 9 to 9:30, Superior Donuts. From 9:30 to 10, the pilot of Living Biblically. From 10 to 11, Scorpion. The team must prevent a black hole. Fox, WRAZ Channel 50, WGHP Channel 8, and WSFX Channel 26. From 8 to 9, Lucifer. Lucifer and Chloe infiltrate a reunion. From 9 to 10, The Resident. The staff must perform 3 surgeries. From 10 to 11, The News. NBC, WRAL Channel 5, WECT Channel 6, and WMBF Channel 32. From 8 to 10, The Voice. The Blind auditions season premiere. The vocalists perform for the coaches. From 10 to 11, Good Girls. 3 suburban moms rob a supermarket. PBS, WUNC Channel 4, WUNU, and WUNJ. From 8 to 10 to back-to-back episodes of Antiques Roadshow. And from 10 to 11, Independent Lens, Rat Film. A&E Channel 21. From 8 to 9, The First 48. Monster, a detective tracks a sadistic killer. From 9 to 11, Jonestown, The Women Behind the Massacre. 4 women help plan a deadly massacre. Discovery Channel, Channel 42. From 8 to 9, Street Outlaws versus Fast and Loud, Start Your Engines. From 9 to 10, Street Outlaws, Richard Rollins wants a rematch. And from 10 to 11:30, Street Outlaws, Memphis, JJ challenges legendary racer Birdman. TBN Channel 68. From 8 to 9, Praise the Lord. From 9 to 9:30, Reinhard. From 9:30 to 10, Jesse Duplantis. From 10 to 10:30, Franklin Graham. From 10:30 to 11, Greg Laurie, .tv. TBS Channel 24. From 8 to 9, Family Guy. From 9 to 10, Family Guy, a retelling of Return of the Jedi. From 10 to 10:30, American Dad Shell Game. From 10:30 to 11, Final Space. Turner Classic Movies, Channel 54. From 8 to 11:30, a 4-star drama from 1946, The Best Years of Our Lives, starring Frederick March, Marla Loy, and Dana Andrews. 3 World War II veterans come home. The Learning Channel, Channel 23. From 8 to 9, Tallest Teens. And from 9 to 11, Counting On. Joe and Kendra take engagement photos. That's what's on television tonight.
Letters to the editor. Time to sue for safety. Oh, the photograph. It says, there, I know just how you feel. They're mean to me all of the time, too, for no good reason. They got the tobacco companies hugging the NRA. The United States of America is world famous for school gun violence and lawsuits. I suggest we use the latter to combat the former. The very first requirement of any board of education, be it local, state, or federal, is to provide for the safety of the students. Clearly, they have neglected that responsibility. Let's sue the rascals and use the money to provide the much-needed security. School staff and parents, get busy. Please copy this message and spread the word. Thoughts and prayers haven't been much help. Bruce McDonald of 7 Lakes.
Super Agers' Brains offer clues to keeping sharp by Lauren Neergaard, The Associated Press, Washington. It's pretty extraordinary for people in their 80s and 90s to keep the same sharp memory as someone several decades younger Now scientists are peeking into the brains of these superagers to uncover their secret. The work is the flip side of the disappointing hunt for new drugs to fight or prevent Alzheimer's disease. Instead, why don't we figure out what it was we might need to do to maximize our memory, said neuroscientist Emily Rogowski, who leads the superaging study at Northwestern University in Chicago. Parts of the brain shrink with age, one of the reasons why most people experience a gradual slowing of at least some types of memory late in life, even if they avoid diseases like Alzheimer's. But it turns out that superagers' brains aren't shrinking nearly as fast as their peers. And autopsies of the first superagers to die during the study show they harbor a lot more of a special kind of nerve cell in a deep brain region that's important for attention, Rogowski told a recent meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. These elite elders are more than just an oddity or a rarity, said neuroscientist Molly Waxter of the National Institute on Aging, which helps fund the research. There's a potential for learning an enormous amount and applying it to the rest of us and even to those who may be on a trajectory for some type of neurodegenerative disease. What does it take to be a superager? Youthful brain and the body of someone 80 or older. Rogowski's team has given a battery of tests to more than 1,000 people who thought they'd qualify, and only about 5% passed. The key memory challenge: listen to 15 unrelated words, and a half hour later recall at least 9. That's the norm for 50-year-olds, but the average 80-year-old recalls 5. Some superagers remember them all. It doesn't mean you're any smarter, stressed superager William Bill Gurenek, who turns 87 next month and joined the study 2 years ago. Nor can he credit protective genes. Gurenek's father developed Alzheimer's in his 50s. He thinks his own cellular memory is bolstered by keeping busy. He bikes and plays tennis and water volleyball. He stays social through regular lunches and meetings with a men's group he co-founded. Absolutely, that's a critical factor about keeping your wits about you, exclaimed Gurenek, fresh off his monthly gin game. Rogowski's superagers tend to be extroverts and report strong social networks, but otherwise they come from all walks of life, making it hard to find a common trait for brain health. Some went to college, some didn't. Some have high IQs, some are average. She studied people who've experienced enormous trauma, including a Holocaust survivor, fitness buffs and smokers, teetotalers, and those who tout a nightly martini. But deep in their brains is where she's finding compelling hints that somehow superagers are more resilient against the ravages of time. Early on, brain scans showed that a superager's cortex, an outer brain layer critical for memory and other key functions, is much thicker than normal for their age. It looks more like the cortex of a healthy 50 and 60-year-old. It's not clear if they were born that way, but Rogowski's teams found another possible explanation. A superager's cortex doesn't shrink as fast. Every 18 months, average 80-somethings experience more than twice the rate of loss. Another clue: deeper in the brain, that attention region is larger in superagers too. And inside, autopsies show that brain region was packed with unusual large spinally neurons, a special and little understood type called von Economal neurons thought to play a role in social processing and awareness. The superagers had 4 to 5 times more of those neurons than the typical octogenarian, Rogowski said, more even than the average young adult.
Ex-soldier pleads guilty. A former soldier pled guilty in federal court Wednesday to being involved in a cigarette smuggling enterprise that operated between Fort Bragg and New York City, according to a release from the Office of U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of North Carolina. Jonathan Rex Leach, 33, of Raleigh, pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to trafficking in contraband cigarettes. He and 4 others were indicted in November. Leach was one of 3 soldiers who used their privileges as members of the military to purchase more than 47,000 cartons of cigarettes at the Army Air Force Exchange Service or from commissary stores on Fort Bragg, the release said. Leach and the others would take the cigarettes to storage facility in Fayetteville or Raleigh where others involved in the operation would be waiting. Leach helped pack up carts of cigarettes into the suitcase that were then loaded onto commercial passenger buses or mailed them via UPS to New York, the release said.
Two displaced in Lynn Avenue house fire. 2 residents were displaced, but no injuries reported from a Sunday morning house fire off Ramsey Street in North Fayetteville. Firefighters responded to the blaze at 312 Lynn Avenue at about 11:13 a.m., where they spotted a fire showing from one side of the single-story family home. Additional fire department units were requested to assist. Crews were able to make a quick knockdown of the fire and stop the fire's progress, the Fayetteville Fire Department news release said. Fire department crews also conducted quick and thorough searches of the structure to ensure there were no occupants still inside. The Red Cross was contacted to assist the 2 occupants of the home. The release described the fire damages as significant. Damages were estimated at $20,000 and crews remained on site to determine the fire's origin. Once the investigation is complete, the scene will be turned back over to the homeowner or occupants, the department said. And this concludes this reading of Monday's Fayetteville Observer, dated February 26, 2018. Your radio hosts have been
Beverlyn Simonette
and Robert Bean. Please continue to listen to the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service for more local and regional news. We've enjoyed being with you this morning. Thank you for tuning us in, and have a wonderful day.
To celebrate leaders and doers, artists and athletes, entrepreneurs and entertainers. Join me the 3rd Tuesday of each month at 4 p.m. with rebroadcasts throughout the week.